Hello, everyone. Man, this is totally new to me because I've never done a live stream before. I've never done anything on Twitch or anything like that. So it's weird not to have a back and forth. But I'm going to be looking closely at the chat. So if you want to say anything, just throw it in the chat, and I will. I'll check it there. We'll answer some questions. What I'm hoping to do is go through a little bit about React. Well, I'm not really going to be teaching too much about React. Um, except for answering your questions. But I want to live code one of the projects that we're going to be doing in my upcoming remake of my intro to React course. So I'm really excited about that. Oh, I think Leanne usually does a sound effect. I have a cool little soundboard, but I can't hear them. So when I play it, I'm just hoping that you can hear it. Some of these are kind of funny. Maybe I'll randomly press one of my buttons to see what happens. Awesome. Well, yeah, I believe Leanne and Michael might be on holiday, so I'm taking over. They know that I'm taking over. I said that I was hijacking it. I'm not really hijacking it. Um, so yes, let me share my screen. I think that's the right one. Hey, there we go. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, Scrimba we like to do a lot of these kinds of interactive community events. We have something practically every day of the week between the community meetup on Thursdays, where Per, the CEO of Scrimba, joins and he gets some feedback about things. He asks certain questions. You do straw polls. There's a weekly web dev challenge when you go through, or you're given a challenge and you get to put your own little creative spin on it. And there's prizes for that one, so that one's really fun. Um, and we've got a podcast, which if you haven't listened to our podcast, the podcast is really great. Um, and yeah, and then we do some other like YouTube live stuff. So I'm excited to be here. Um, let me go ahead. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be using the Scrimba editor. So it's going to handle some of the magic that's happening, or it does some magic for you behind the scenes. In Scrimba, I can just say new Scrim. And when I tell it that it's a React project, it will just handle it. It'll put React DOM as dependencies and give me a little basic starter here. I'm actually just going to delete everything, and we will be starting completely from scratch. Uh, Thanks, I guess. Nice beard. I shaved my neck this morning, so it's a little bit cleaner for the show. I can't really grow a beard either. When there's one time when I went a long time without shaving, and it's okay. It's not a magnificent beard, that's for sure. Glad to see everyone here. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, Scrimba sprung to get me a nice microphone. Hopefully it's a good volume. If it's too loud or too quiet, just let me know. I've got my whole mixer board here. I can make it really quiet or I can make it really loud. So I'm trying to choose somewhere right in between. Hopefully that didn't just blow anybody's ears out. Okay, let's see. Alana, good to see you on here. How do you organize your React code so everything isn't all in app.js? Man, organizing your code is probably an entire profession on its own. I just kind of wing it. I've dabbled with different strategies. Sometimes I've done things like created folders for every one of my components, or if I'm really trying to be organized, I'll create a components folder, and then inside of my components folder, I'll create a folder for every, let's say, navbar.js, or sorry, that's the folder name. Um, I'll make a folder for navbar, and that actually goes inside components. And then inside of navbar, I'll make a file called index.js, and that's where I will like import all of my other files inside of that folder. So I might have navbar.js, and then maybe there's something else that helps support the navbar, like a dropdown.js. something crazy like that if I'm trying to be really organized. Otherwise, if I'm just doing something really simple, um, I oftentimes won't even bother with a components folder. I'll just have, why isn't this deleting my stuff? I will just have like index.js, which will pull in app, and then app will pull in some other components, and they'll just all be kind of sitting here. I'll refresh this page. Tyrone, what is my go-to resource for React? Um, that's a good question. Google. That's maybe more vague than you were hoping, but pretty often I'll just end up Googling stuff. A lot of times what I end up doing is I will Google something and then realize that I don't love reading about React. I love watching other people teach me React. So then I'll end up on YouTube, and YouTube will, yeah. Anyway, I just end up on YouTube, I think, for the most part. It's my go-to resource. Fernando, awesome. Just started the React module on the front-end developer career path. That's great. You should continue. I am currently re-recording that module to essentially shift away from classes in React and move toward hooks as the sort of first-class citizen, the primary method of learning React. But if you're already working on the existing content that's there, you should just continue with it, because by the end, you'll know more than other people. You'll learn that. And then you can also go back and watch this new course. My goal, and this is me being accountable, I guess, to the world, is to have the course done by the end of September. There's going to be 4 sections as far as I can tell right now. The last section will just be projects. There's at least going to be 2 projects, one of which we're going to live code today. And possibly 3 if I can think of one that would be really fitting. So yeah, that's exciting. Will we be learning about props today? That is a great question. Just looking at, I'm cheating a little bit because I have my finished code up here. I'm going to try and not look at it while we're coding unless I get really stuck. Just to keep it more like live coding. Yes, there's a little bit of props. We're going to be touching more on state than props. So we'll be doing some stuff with state. But yes, there is at least a little bit of props going on. Increase the zoom. Oh, yes. Okay. I can, let's see. I think there's a better way. I can change the font size. Okay. Let me know if you want it bigger than that. Still is a little bit small, but we'll code a little bit. If it's still a little small, just let me know. Today we will not be using Redux. Do not disturb. Yeah, thanks. That's a good idea. Can't remember how to use my own computer. I'll figure it out. We won't be using Redux. Our data will not be complex enough to require Redux. So yeah. Give me just a second here. Okay. I wish you were the instructor in all React related stuff in the front end career path. I am going to, like I said, I am remaking the module 11, and I will be afterwards recreating the advanced React module 12. There may be some support stuff that I end up doing with React, although I haven't really talked too much with the team about that. But I also think it's helpful to get it from different perspectives. So hopefully I can make these upcoming courses as enjoyable as some of the past ones. Best practices for React. We're going to be talking about some of those, but that's a really broad question. There's so many, but hopefully I'll be teaching you some good practices as we go along today. And no, I don't have a cat. I'm sorry. I'm actually pretty allergic to cats. So yeah, it's probably good that Pumpkin is a whole ocean away from me. Okay, thanks. I got my do not disturb. That's sounds like a good shortcut to do it. And yeah, let's go ahead. Oh, yes, you the old module, I believe it won't be officially as a part of the um front end developer career path, but it will still be a course on Scrimba. It should still exist. And it should still be free. So you should be able to find it there. Okay. Oh, let's answer this question too. This is a good one. Do you recommend fully learning React with Redux, Redux Saga, Next.js before learning any other framework? I think it just depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to get a job as a front end developer, React is a great way to start. And I would just dive into React until you get a job. If you already are satisfied with whatever job you have, then and you're just wanting to learn new things, I would probably recommend like learning React to a good degree and then jump over to Vue, and then maybe touch on Angular or Svelte, just to dabble and play with it. You know, assuming that you don't have a career that you're trying to switch into that's riding on the line. Like if you're unemployed looking for a job, I would just focus on React and get good at React, keep applying to jobs until you get that job, and then essentially they're paying you to learn something else, or you'll at least buy yourself some time to learn something else. Oh, Leanne, you're on here. Good. I feel like I'm supported now. I've got some. I'm not just flying solo. Okay, the browser zoom. Let's see. Yeah, you're probably right. It needs to be more than just the editor's zoom. Let's go like that. And then I think I'm going to bump this back down. Okay. Is that a little better? Can you guys see like the Explorer and everything a little better? Hopefully. Is it enough to learn the context API or should you learn Redux? I have a skewed view of this because in the United States, I am not hearing a whole lot about Redux anymore these days, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's been when I was working at my last job at a boot camp for vSchool, I would stay relatively close in contact with the industry and kind of tap them whenever we were thinking about changing their curriculum. And when we decided to get rid of Redux, or when we posed the question, should we get rid of Redux in favor of context? The answer we got was yes. Just don't worry about teaching Redux anymore. Just use the context API. But my understanding is worldwide that might be different. So I I haven't done much with Redux in a while. I'm feeling pretty rusty on Redux. Um, but yeah, so my point of view might be a little skewed. I'm sorry if that's not a great answer. I would say just start with the context API, and then if you're finding a lot of job posts as you're searching for jobs that ask for Redux, then dive into Redux. And it's good to know both anyways. They both kind of have their place. Anti-allergen cats. Guess it's something to think about. I have two very young children, and taking care of a pet is, I think, a little outside of my capabilities right now because I'm just trying to keep my kids alive. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. You guys have so much to say. How similar is React to Vue? I have only in a cursory way played with Vue. Um, Vue feels a lot like the very little amount that I've done or seen. Vue feels a lot like a combination of React and Angular 1, which may not make any sense to a lot of people. Um, but it's got a lot of similar concepts. But it does feel a little more like Angular 1 to me than React. The concept of Vue is fairly easy to grasp, at least in my experience. And so it's I think that's why a lot of people really like it. It's also got a very active community. I think it might even have more likes or stars or whatever on GitHub than React. Um, but there's just not as many jobs in Vue, at least the last time I looked. Um, But a lot of people love it. Those who love it really love it. Ooh, this is a good one. Resources to begin a project with test-driven development. Um, I am that's probably one of my biggest weak areas is testing. I have always wanted to get into testing. I've, even gone so far as to really study the philosophy of testing and learning what I should be testing and what I shouldn't be testing. Uh, but yeah, testing is not my forte at all. So I know that Kent Dodds has a very full course on testing. I think it's called Testing JavaScript. That talks first about the concept of testing, testing plain JavaScript, and then a whole section on testing React. Um, and he built React testing library, which is becoming kind of a gold standard for testing React alongside Jest or with Jest. Oh yeah, you talk about testing library in there. Yeah. So I think his courses would be great. There's also probably a million resources. My tendency as kind of a perfectionist when I'm learning something new, especially when I need to teach it, is to consume a lot of different courses, which when you're just trying to be productive and build stuff is not a great way to do it, by the way. But when you're trying to learn it well enough or learn the kind of best practices in order to teach it, because I don't want to teach you some random dude's way of doing it that I saw on YouTube. I tend to consume a lot of different resources. And so I would say I just would go to YouTube, find a course that looks good. I think I've still got a Pluralsight membership. So I would maybe go to Pluralsight or Treehouse or Egghead or whatever and see what courses are there. Oh, it just skipped. How many projects will my React course contain? So it's going to be split into 4 sections. Each section will have a section project, which are relatively simple, and I'm essentially going to be driving the content forward with those. So there's the first 3 sections are all learning new materials. So there's 3 projects there. The third section's project's going to be a revamp of the meme generator because it was a pretty popular project in the first course. And then the fourth section of the new module, the new course, will just be projects. And so it will have at least 2 projects, possibly a third. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6 projects in this new React course. Ooh, what should the first app a beginner I think you mean what should I make as a beginner in React? What should my first project be? I just make as many projects as you can. It doesn't matter. Some really simple ones that are kind of standard are like a counter app where you have a plus button, a minus button, and a number that helps you learn about state and props. Um, some of the basics there. To do list is kind of basic. I think a lot of people shun away from or shy away from doing to-do lists, but uh, I mean, the reason it's such a popular thing isn't because people love building a to-do list, but because it encompasses a lot of the content that you or a lot of the things you need to understand as a beginner in a new framework. This is a great question. Would it be advisable to have at least a little bit of backend knowledge as an entry-level React developer? What extent of backend should you be aiming to know? I don't think it hurts. I also don't think there are as many jobs for full stack developers who, yeah, I don't think there's as many jobs for full stack developers as either front end developers or back end developers. Um, but I could be wrong depending on the kind of the environment worldwide. Uh, you should definitely know something about backend, how a server works, how a database saves your code, and how a server interacts with the database. I'm not talking about knowing how to build one yourself necessarily, although I mean you can learn, especially in Node and Express. You can learn some of that in. I mean, I could build a database in like, or I'm sorry, I could build a server that interacts with the database in like 10 lines of code. Um, so it would be worth your time learning, but especially knowing how it works, what's happening when you're making an API call from your React site out to the world, and then how it comes back. Removing the magic behind the scenes on the back end will certainly just open the world of your understanding. That being said, I don't think if you're looking for a front end job, they're usually not going to ask you to code in the back end. I don't think so. But great question. Um, okay, so I know, let's see, this one says, I know most of the things in React, like API calls, Redux, UI stuff. How should I level up from here? Um, Again, it depends on what your goal is. If you're looking for a job, start building projects, build your portfolio, and just make those projects awesome. It's really easy to um, finish a project till it's kind of good enough to your standards and then move on, maybe with like a few bugs or the UI looks terrible or whatnot. Really hone those projects in, make them look professional. Find someone who is a designer, like get a friend that's a designer and ask for some feedback on how to make the design better. Send it to your friends and family, have them debug it essentially, or send you like, hey, I found this bug. When this happens, it breaks, and then fix all those things. If you have 2 to 4 really excellent projects and a portfolio that shows them off, you're much more likely to get a job. If your goal isn't to get a job, and yeah, I don't know. It just depends on your goal. If you want to learn as much as possible and just consume, then you could move on to a different framework. But yeah, if your goal is to get a job, don't try to learn every framework. A lot of times the job, like you'll be learning React, but the job is in Angular, and they oftentimes won't care that you don't know Angular. If you can show them that you can problem solve and that you're a cool person to be around, they're more likely to hire you and just say, we can teach you, whatever you need to learn. This one, in my experience, what are some common questions or exercises a React developer role interview? I unfortunately am not a great person to ask this to. My last job at the boot camp I was at, I was there for 7 years, and then I got approached by Scrimba. And so I haven't actually had to do many job interviews. The advice that I have to give is all advice that other people who have gone through job interviews have told me about, like told me about their experiences. Um, so I unfortunately don't know. I think there's a lot of resources out there, but that's about as far as I can go. I'm so sorry. I don't. I probably am not the best person to ask for this. I I think I get what you're trying to say, Brooklyn. I could never recommend lying your way into a JavaScript job, mostly because I think you might have kind of been kidding. Um, Mostly because they'll usually figure you out, and they won't want to hire you if they catch you, like if they know that you're just lying. Um, but it's true if you get to like if you get a job because you're a good person and they want to work with you in a language or a framework that you didn't know, then I mean you'll be forced to learn it quickly because you'll be doing it all day every day. It's the best practice you can get. We had a student at V School who, I mean, we taught all JavaScript. It was React and Node, and he wanted to apply for this job that was teaching C sharp. So he spent a weekend just learning the syntax of C sharp and building something really simple, and then went into their coding challenge and did it in C sharp, explaining like, "Hey, I learned this weekend. I knew nothing about it." And the fact that he was able to really show that initiative was what drove them to hire him. So yeah, but he was upfront with them. He was honest. I feel pretty strongly about this one. To be perfect in React, should I be good in JavaScript? Yes, you should spend a good amount of time doing JavaScript, building stuff in JavaScript, so that you don't conflate React with JavaScript. And I'm just noticing that it's almost 10:30 already. So we're gonna have to jump into our project. But yes, you should definitely learn JavaScript and spend a good amount of time building stuff in JavaScript. I mean, even in the front end developer career path on Scrimba, we don't touch React until module 11, or we don't teach React until module 11. So there's quite a bit that just covers HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. So I'll have to come back to some of these other ones. You guys are faster than I am with the comments. So I want to jump in and start live coding a project. Let me actually show you the uh, finished view here. There's a game called Tenzies. It's kind of a kids game. But the concept is you roll 10 dice and you're trying to get all 10 of them to be the same number as soon as possible. So for the sake of simplicity and avoiding a bunch of CSS stuff, I didn't put real dice dots on here. I just kind of put the numbers in. And so with our Tenzies game, you roll and then you can hold certain dice. So say I'm going for threes because that's what I have the most of, and then click roll and select my other threes, and there's my threes, and then this last one always takes forever. Oh, don't click roll again. Okay, three. And then once we have all threes, we get a little confetti. So, and then there's the ability to reset the game, which just rolls. I can roll all the dice if I want. And I've had some look at this. I've had some pretty crazy rolls sometimes where I get quite a few. I mean, 6 out of the 10, that's pretty amazing. Or I've gotten all 10 within like 4 rolls or something crazy, but it doesn't always happen. Um, anyway, yeah. So somebody said, Dave, double Yahtzee. Uh, I This originally started as a Yahtzee game, and then I realized that Yahtzee was going to quickly get very complex, and so I I didn't continue with Yahtzee. Um, so let's start coding this up. we can do a little bit of live coding. We may not um, get to everything. Actually, maybe I should just ask. Maybe I should just ask the group if you'd rather keep having me answer questions or if you want to live code some stuff. So let me know. I'll start live coding, but then this folder won't delete. Leon, file a bug with Scrimba. Put this in our channel. Can't even delete a folder. Maybe it's because I have files in there. I can delete files. Maybe if it's an empty folder. Oh, there we go. It probably just needed to be empty. I guess that's probably safer since we don't have a trash. Code, live code. Okay, let's do that. Live coding is hard. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but I'm going to do my best here. I have to reset my game over here on the right because the confetti is driving me crazy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Import React from React. I mean, that's a good place to start. And then we need to display something on the screen. This is kind of how I always end up starting. I'm just going to put something on there just so I can see what it looks like. Say hello and document.getElement by ID root. I'm not going to have time to explain every little piece. Obviously, if you haven't done any React, this might all be totally new to you. I agree that Scrimba should have Emmet. I really wish that it did. My understanding is it's actually kind of tricky to get it into the Scrimba environment, but that's been an ongoing thing that I've wanted. So I've got hello on the screen. Now this, remember, was a when I created the new Scrim, I chose React automatically. So it created my div with the ID of root, and I just knew that that was there. That's how I said document.getElement by ID root. So maybe I will start with some dice on the screen. And I think I'll just, for now, put this in index.js, and then when it becomes complex, I'll move stuff out into different files. So let's see, if I want dice on my screen, let me go ahead and create a component here that I can render instead of my H1, and then I'll just render my app. I do a lot of sanity checks along the way just to make sure that things are working. Probably ends up costing me some time, but actually it probably ends up saving me some time because then I can catch my errors pretty early. Okay. So let's see. I want some dice. Actually, maybe the first thing I should do is get my 10 numbers. Yeah, let's go ahead and have our numbers available. We'll generate our numbers. So inside of my component, this function is my component, and then I'll have some helper functions to help me kind of build the UI of that component. We'll say maybe get new dice. This, I do remember this being a little bit weird when I did a little research. I was like, what's the most concise way I can just generate 10 new numbers? I'm not going to do that. I have something that actually I'll just show you. This is what I ended up doing just based on Stack Overflow, but this is kind of crazy with this, like spreading a new array of 10 items and then mapping it out to get a random value. So I think what I'll do is just do it in the simplest way I can. We'll say new dice is an empty array. And then I'll just do a for loop. Go for loop. Less than 10, I plus plus. And let's create a new number, and that's going to be, let's see. Well, we don't want a 0, so I could say math.floor, math.random, and then +1, or because I want to start at 1, I'm actually going to say math.ceiling, which will round my random number up. And then I always forget where this needs to go. We'll test it. I want to go up to 6. Might be it. And oops. Okay, let's see what I've got. Oh, I'm not returning anything. Okay, let's keep our hello world there. Just there we go. Okay. So I've got this function. Let's oh, and then I want to at the end return my new dice so that when I call my function, I can save my new dice in a variable. Close. Well, I'll keep my console open because I'm going to console log this dice. And empty array. Oh, that's because I'm not doing anything with my new number, of course. New dice stop push new number. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're all between 1 and 6. Let's run this just a couple times just to make sure. Yep, looking good. Okay, so there's some new numbers. Okay. Let me check the chat real quick just to see. It's really annoying to always import React. With React version 17, you technically don't need to import React. I talk about this in the new course. You technically don't need to import React anymore. You do have to make sure that it's either Babel or Webpack is set up correctly in order for that to work. And I think in the new Create React app that uses version 17 of React, you don't need to do anything different. It's all set up for you. At this time, Scrimba, even with React 17, Scrimba still requires me to import React because the underlying, again, either Babel or Webpack needs to be updated for that. So you're right. We no longer, as a bonus, we no longer need to do that. Do you suggest React with Next.js? Next.js is React. As far as I know, I don't think you can do anything but React in Next.js. I have only tinkered with Next.js a little bit, and I really liked it. I'm planning on using Next.js for probably a majority of my future projects. Okay, let's get back to here because our time is dwindling. So let's, we have new dice. We have an array of new dice. Let's go ahead and save this to state so we can actually have things re-render when we get new dice. So I'm going to use react.useState, the useState hook. And actually, you know what? I can generate it when it first runs. I can have it run get new dice. And what that'll do is on the first render, it'll run my get new dice function and set state to be an array. Well, this array down here. Minimize that. This will be, I guess we'll just call it dice and set dice. It's kind of the standard way to name these. This one is my actual state value, and this one is a function for updating it in the future if I want. The nice thing about this being an array is I can call this whatever I want. If I were destructuring an object, I would be forced to use the same properties as the object. But with an array, they just give me the value in index 0 and the function in index 1. And I can call it whatever I want. So don't need this line anymore. I'm doing that in state. And let's map through our dice and yeah, let's map through our dice and display them on the screen. I could do my map directly inside of my return. I tend to not like doing that. Maybe we'll call it mapped dice. Dice.map. Free die. We'll return, I guess, something smaller in H3. And I just have my dice array is just an array of numbers. So this die is just going to be a number. So I should just be able to say die. And I think that'll put it on there. And then let's put some container here. And then we'll have our mapped dice. Okay. Obviously, I don't love that they're all in a line, but that's a good start. So maybe let's, this might be a good time to put this into its own component, the dice, like create a dice component or a die component, like each instance counts as one die. And so, yeah, let's do that. We'll call it die.js, which sounds kind of violent, but it is what it is. Put React from React. Then we'll create a function called die. This will take some props. I think we'll include the number. These days I like to destructure my props right in line, so I'll probably have like a number, but just so I don't screw something up, I'll call it props for now. Again, gonna do my sanity check. I'm a die. And then I need to export it. And I could choose to do that right in line like this, export default function die. Or let's just do that for brevity. And then I can import die from die. Okay. And instead of an H3, I will make a die component. And let's just, my die component has something hard-coded in it. So this will just be a way for us to see if that's working. And sure enough, I'm a die. Let's go back to H3 because that was a little more manageable. I might change it later. Okay, so I have access to a number and I want to tell my die component what number that is. So let's say number equals die. And over in my die component, I'm now going to be receiving a prop called number. So I'll have props.number, and we'll just put that in here, props. Okay, we're kind of back to where we were, but now some of this logic lives over here, and we'll also be dealing with, I don't know, other bunch of cool stuff. Okay. Let's trying to think what I might want to do next. It's a little annoying that these are all in a line. I think I might just want to flexbox them. So let's do that real quick. In my H3 here, and I'll probably end up changing this anyway, but I'm going to give it a class name of die, maybe. Good enough. Oh, you know what? I always like to add box sizing border box so I don't end up struggling with any time I add a border with the width of something. Of course, I haven't been setting widths in a while. I will be. I'm kind of glancing up. Oh, Todd, that's a great suggestion. Just to use the span instead. Actually, let's just do that. I will be trying to post this the link to this in Discord. So if you're part of the Discord community, I'll follow up my announcement earlier with the scrim in it. Um, and yeah, I like the idea of just using a span instead, so I don't have to worry about um, block level elements. So looks like a phone number or something, but good enough. That buys me some room down here with everything on its own line. I would have had to scroll down every time. Because I think what I want to work on next is a button that will roll all new dice. And I've already got a function that will get me all the new dice. So I think that will be fairly straightforward. Underneath my mapped dice, I'll put a button. Say dice, new, no, just say roll. And when it's clicked, let's see, so get new dice, all that does is give me a whole new array of dice, but that's not setting the state. So the naming is going to get confusing here. Well, let's just see what happens. Whenever I click this button, let's say I'll just do something in line because I'm in a hurry. And I'm going to use the, oops, sorry, it's set dice. Use set dice. And the value, right now I don't care about the old values because I don't have the ability to hold any one of them. But I should just be able to run my get new dice function. And this will return a new array. This will set the new array to state. And when state updates, this will update because I'm using my dice variable, which is part of state. That will update. It will rerun my map and then re-render, I think. Let's see. And that's okay. Okay. So, yep. Looking beautiful. Just kidding. It looks terrible. This is kind of how I tend to do things. I'll make it work and then I'll make it pretty. But yeah, we're getting all new numbers, still 1 through 6. That's looking good. Let me take a second to look at the comments just to catch up here. I'm not planning a course on Next at this time, although I would love to eventually teach one. Why am I using react.useState and not destructuring it? I always used to destructure it. And then I learned something, I think it might have been from Kent Dodds. He once mentioned that, or somebody once mentioned that they prefer to use react.useState because it makes it obvious that this function useState is coming from the React library. And so this is kind of a habit I've gotten into lately, but it would be exactly the same to destructure it up here and then just say useState. So either one is totally fine. Okay, we're getting our warning there for the key prop. Okay, cool. So let's get our button on its own line. So it's not floating there. Could have also made it display block, but I don't love doing that if I don't have to. And man, our time is so limited. Wish this were like a 2-hour thing. Let's make our dice look a little more reasonable because they look pretty silly right now. So, okay, I created a class name of die. Let's give each one, and I think I used a span, right? Let's make each one do put a border black, maybe height and width. Oh, they don't have height and width because they're spans. Okay, that's a little better. I'm trying to do this in kind of a rough way. I probably would give a little more love to my markup here, but we'll just see if I can make this work. I'm going to give this actually a display of um, flex. Let's say flex. This is only, I'm only doing this so that I can center this number. So we'll say align items center, justify content center. Okay, gotta love centering things with modern CSS. But because they're not inline block anymore, or sorry, they're not spans anymore. Wait, do flex items take up the entire width? Let's give our container the ability to display these as flex. So if I weren't doing this kind of on the fly, I might choose to create a component that held this whole set of dice. CSS skills are lacking. All dice is display flex. Need to refresh this. Okay. I think this is one of those things that I always end up having to look up is flex and flex wrap. I'm kind of gonna leave it like this. In my course, I mean, over here, you can see I actually make it so that they're always in 2 rows. Or did I add some kind of, nope. Yeah, that's a little broken on the mobile. So for now, I'm probably just gonna leave it. So sorry if that causes anybody anxiety for having a row of 6 and a row of 4. I'm one of those people. Though I do want to do a couple little things. Border radius, let's give it like 5 pixels, and then how did I? There's soon in Flexbox there is, oh, you know what I did? I made the die container a display of grid, and that's how I made it always be on 2 lines. You know what? I am just going to steal this. Sorry if I'm cheating. Hey, there we go. That gives a little grid gap too. I don't love that, but that's because I have a different container in my final version. But that will do for now. Grid. So the reason I think I ended up using grid is so that I could easily make this grid gap. When you're using Flexbox, there's I believe soon there's going to be some kind of flex gap, like an ability to add spacing between your flex items without having to do something crazy like put a margin right, except for the last item where it's no margin, gap. Thanks. There, gap. I haven't tested this. My time's running short, so I'm not even going to test it. Sorry. My role is still working. That's a good thing to test. And I think the last thing I want to do is, with my limited time, have the ability to hold one of these dice when I click it. Actually, let me change the cursor to pointer so that it looks like I can click it. And let's create. Let's see. In order to click and hold a dice, I'm actually going to need a little bit more. Because I need each dice not to just be a number, but to know whether it's being held or not. There's probably another solution. Like I could probably create an array that matched up with this array and said whether it was being held or not being held. I don't love that though. I don't love having two data structures that maintain one kind of set of data. So let's just see where we get. In my get new dice function, which I'm running every time I click roll and every time the component first renders, I'm returning an array of numbers. What if I had an object where it was an array of 10 objects, each object contained its number, but then also had a property as to whether or not it was currently being held. I think that's probably what I will do. So I'm getting a new number here. But instead of pushing my new number, let's say a new die, and that's an object where the value, or let's stick with our nomenclature of number, is new number. Oops, new number. And it has a Boolean as to whether or not it's being held, and we'll set that to false because we're getting new dice. We don't want them to start out being held. And then we're going to push our new die to our new dice array. Something else is going to have to change down here. I was assuming that die was just a number, but now it's an object that has a number property. In fact, I think, did we see that? Yeah, okay, so React doesn't, okay. Cool, that's working again. Dave, could the held property be called isHeld? Sure, why not? Like that. When it's a Boolean, I usually actually prefer to do that. Okay, so now I want to give each die the ability to click on it and hold itself. Actually, you know what? Let's do a little bit of magic so we can easily, not magic, let's add a class so we can know whether our die is being held or not. We have a prop coming in called props.isHeld, and I want to add a dynamic style that will, actually, you know what, just for the sake of doing dynamic styles, I'm going to say styles is an object, and I'm going to say the background color, if props.isHeld is true, so just if props.isHeld, then let's turn it green, and otherwise, can I say null or inherit maybe? None. What happens? That's not supposed to be a colon, that's a question mark. Then I will just add this as an inline style. I'm really taking a lot of shortcuts here because sorry. I don't have a way to switch it, but let's go to our index and tell this to be true. And oops, that didn't work. I am not passing that property down. So we'll say is held is die dot is held. And you can't see this anymore because of my font size here. And there we go. It's a lovely color of green. Okay. Tom Chan, unset. That might work. And let's change this back to false. I mean, it seems to be working, so we'll call it good. It's 11. I think usually we have a pretty strict end right on the hour thing. I'm going to finish this one little feature and then we'll be good. So let's see. Once we get multiple properties being passed in, I usually like to just pass the whole object in But again, for now, I'm just gonna kind of leave it. I'm gonna make a function that's, let's see, hold dice. I might cheat for a minute just because I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling stressed because I'm in a hurry. Uh, okay, so what I end up doing is saying roll the unheld dice. Um, oh no, wait, I don't want to roll the unheld dice. I'm sorry. I want to hold a die. So I will say hold dice. And I think so I guess I should think out loud here. This is a function that I'm going to pass down to my die. So each die will have the ability when it's clicked to update its own, or rather to send a signal to this parent index.js component and set the dice except for, or sorry, not set the dice. It needs to change its own, set the dice. It needs to set its dice, but change its one is held property to true, right? So I click it, it flips itself. Essentially, it will map over all the dice and change that one die to be is held of true. In order to know which die is doing that, like in order to know which one it is, it's going to need to know which index it's at. So yeah, we'll say hold dice is going to be given an index. And when we pass our function, oh, you know what? When we're mapping, we have access to the die and the index. And then this is crazy. Let me. I feel so claustrophobic here. Goodness, I feel like I can breathe again. Oh, except I screwed something up. No, that doesn't look great. There we go. Technically it was right, but okay. So I'm not terribly worried about these errors because I'm not done yet. So let's say let's pass it a function called hold, and I can't just say hold dice because the event handlers don't receive an index; they receive an event. So I'm going to put an inline function here. Hold dice, and now I have access to my index, and I'll say this specific die, I'm going to be creating 10 of these, will know how to hold the dice, and when it's called, this function will execute, and it will run hold dice and specify its own index. I think this might be a principle of closures where it will remember itself as it goes. The closures are kind of one of my weak areas in JavaScript. So let's implement, you know what, let's do a sanity check here. Console log index. We're going to go into our die and put an on click that runs props.hold. Is that what I called it? Hold. And I guess now's the time to fix our error. Oh, it's working. And cool. Okay, so we can see in our console, this is giving me the correct index. Sweet. That allows me in my hold dice function to set the dice. And I'm going to use the version of set dice that gives me access to the old dice. I could probably do a really fancy map that checked the index and either put the old dice there or this new one where the Boolean was flipped. I'm gonna do it kind of the shortcut way, or I don't know. Maybe it's a little less functional, but we'll say new dice is an exact copy of old dice. Then I'm going to say new dice at the index that we are provided is equal to an object, because each dice is an object where the number is the same. Old dice at index dot number. But the is held is old dice at index is the opposite of index dot is held. That look right? Let's see, hold dice. We were console logging the dice. Let's console log. Oh, that's gonna be tricky. Yeah, let's just see if it works, because if we're changing it, the is held value, then it should just kind of work. Now, the last thing I need to do is from my function return my new dice that I've modified. I'm not directly modifying state in this case because I'm making a copy of it, I believe. I would need to do a little bit of testing because now I'm not so confident that it makes a copy of every object. It's possible. No, I think it does. I think it does. We'll see. Oh, look at that. Cool. I can click each one and hold it. Obviously, my roll button is not quite there because it'll just reset all my dice. But yeah, I think I might finish here just because I'm well over time, and I guess I don't want to spoil the whole thing. I'm going to be recording a whole lecture or a whole series building this project together in my new course. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it's good to see kind of how live coding is nerve-wracking. Fortunately, I've done it for a number of years, so I'm more or less used to it. But thanks everyone for joining. Let me just scroll through the chat real quick to see if there's any pending questions. Yep, thanks for Flexbox has Gap now too. I'm not sure how adopted it is amongst all of the all the browsers, because I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. That's good. Thanks for the encouragement. Breathe, Bob. You're doing fine. Thanks. I appreciate that. You got this, sir. You guys are so nice. Yeah, the rules of Yahtzee. I actually end up playing Yahtzee. It's a good game with my kids, so I end up playing Yahtzee a lot. And this is going to be my claim to fame with Yahtzee. 2 months ago, maybe, I rolled, I think, 4 Yahtzees in one game, and I'm pretty sure I will never beat that score. If you don't set the number at all, it simply stays the same. That's a good point. Wait, no, because I'm rewriting my object here. But if I do end up with more properties, I probably actually want to say, give me all the properties of the old dice at index, but change the is held to be the opposite. This ended up being about the same number of lines as doing a map would be, so maybe this isn't any better. I think this might still work though. Yeah, cool. Okay, that's it. Let me, oh, and I can't actually hear that on my side, but I'm assuming you guys can. I think it's supposed to be like a little tinkling thing. So, um, thanks everyone for joining me. This is really fun. Leanne, I think Leanne might have left, but I'm really excited to have done this. Hopefully, I'll get to join again sometime in the future, and hopefully, you're excited about my upcoming React course. I'm currently recording it. I mean, right after this, I'm gonna drink some water and then keep recording. So yeah, look forward to that, and thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you. We'll see you next time.